Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to go down to the other page.
Is everyone done? Give me a thumbs up. Are we good? Okay. Now everybody stand. If you think that Wyatt has blue eyes, go to this side of the room. If you think he has green eyes, go to the middle, and brown eyes, go to this side of the room. Blue, green, brown. Okay, we're kind of split. Why do you all think that he would have blue eyes?
Dominant trait.
Blue eyes is a dominant trait?
I believe so.
Okay. You say bluish. Bluish, okay. Why do you think green?
Yes.
Rock on. Okay. Why do you think brown?
It's dominant.
It's dominant. Okay, so we have one person who thinks blue is dominant, and one person who thinks brown is dominant. Well, I will let you know that he has blue eyes, which are recessive, actually. Okay, so now for hair. If you think that Wyatt has blonde hair, stay here, or go to this side, red hair, or brown hair. Pick it out.
I knew it was one of the two.
Okay, so we have blonde hair, no reds, brown hair. Why do you think blonde hair? Any ideas? Just guessed. Any ideas why brown hair? How about we get two answers on why you think he would have brown hair? Do something real simple. What you think? Could be because his mom has brown hair, right? That could be a reason that we think that. We also could think that because maybe in past generations we've had brown hair. I have brown hair, even though, you know, I kind of dye my hair all kinds of colors, whatever I really feel like that month. So, actually, he's right in the middle. He has red hair. Yeah, I know. How does that even happen? So we're going to go over that today and maybe do some Punnett squares to see how we actually determine who has white genes. So everyone can sit back in their seat. Excuse me. Rock on. How do I unpause this? You're good. I was just curious.
I hit freeze because I had
No, you're
something
okay.
else pulled up.
Does it have a... Oh, okay. Rock on. Okay, if you all want to get out a sheet of paper, if you have a certain place that you take notes, that would be awesome. You can use your sticky notes if you want. You can stick it in your notes if you write kind of small, but there are a few definitions we might want to get down to just go within genetics. I'll give you a few seconds to do that. Okay, so on a scale of, if we're driving our car, when we think of the word genetics, is our windshield clear? Like, do we understand what it is, or are there like bugs on the windshield? We're not really sure. Or is it like covered in mud? Do you have any idea? Raise your hand if it's clear. You know what genetics is. Okay, yeah. What about like a few bugs? We probably need to figure a little bit more out. Anyone mud? Like, I'm stuck in the mud, I have not a clue. Just rock on. You know, when I first heard
I broke the windshield.
Yeah. Okay, broken windshield. We might, okay, genetics. So, when we go through genetics, that's your makeup. That's why you are who you are. The traits that you have that have been passed down from past generations. So, we're going to do some popcorn reading. If everyone's okay with that. And I'll tell you what you need to write down. But these are just some interesting things to go along with genetics. So anyone want to start off? Or else I'll voluntold people. Okay.
Gregor Mendel, the man, the monk, the master of genetics. Austrian monk in the mid-1800s who conducted experiments with pea plants to discover the principles of heredity.
Yeah, okay, so anyone have any clue what heredity is? What even is heredity?
Traits passed down.
Traits passed down, yeah, that's super simple. There's a great definition. Traits passed down. So it's what we get from our parents, but it can also be the same in plants. If we take a seed from a plant, it will often have the same genetic makeup or very similar as the plant that it came from. Okay, anyone else? Keep popcorn reading across.
Okay. Gregor Mendel's studies. His work provided the basis for 4 laws of inheritance: the law of dominance, the law of segregation, and the law of independent assortment.
I know that says 4. I didn't write the PowerPoint, so someone didn't quite count that. So Gregor Mendel was like the first person to say, hey, we are the way we are for a reason. Like, we get all of these traits passed down. Before that, everyone was like, oh, you know, if I have brown hair, brown eyes, and it's both dominant, I'll probably have a blue-eyed child. It doesn't quite work that way. Okay, what is a gene? This is a definition we might want to write down. So I'm going to go ahead and read this one out loud so it's a little bit easier for you to write down. A gene is the simplest unit of inheritance, which influences certain genetic traits in living things. Now notice it says a gene. We are made up of so many more than just one gene. So it's just a simple unit of inheritance which influences certain genetic traits in living things. For example, both of my parents have brown eyes. So, I have brown eyes. They were when we go into Punnett squares, you'll realize they were both either dominant or they probably had a heterozygous gene. And that is the brown-eyed gene that was passed down to me. What do genes do? Okay, genes are carried in chromosomes in the gametes. I wouldn't worry about this too far in. You'll probably get to that a little bit later. I don't know if
We've discussed it a little bit.
We've gone through that a little bit. Okay. We'll just go through here. Genes are passed from parent to offspring through the process of meiosis and mitosis during sexual reproduction. And the genetic transfer of traits from parent to offspring is called heredity and inheritance. We also hear about inheritance when we aren't even talking about genes, right? Have you ever had a family member that has passed something down to you? You have an inheritance from them? Or when family members, sometimes if they pass away, they'll leave you money or something that meant a lot to them. That's an inheritance. It's something that's passed down. You inherit that thing. Okay, genotype. Let's go ahead and write down genotype. A genotype is genetic makeup of a living thing. Individual organisms of the same genotype breed alike. Oh, did I go too fast? More pencils still right. I'll give you plenty. Okay, I'm going to keep on moving. Phenotype. This is another thing we might want to write down. So a phenotype is the observed characteristics of an individual organism with reference to its genetic makeup. So when we were doing our activity at the beginning, the things that we were looking for were the eye color and the hair color. Those are things we can observe, right? We can see what color hair people have and what color eyes they have. But there's also genetic makeup that's inside of us that that you aren't able to see. But those are things that we would be able to see. Oh, sorry, I'm going too fast. Okay, anyone want to read this one? Yes, no, maybe so? Go ahead, yeah.
How heredity is affected by genes. Each characteristic or trait has two genes, one derived from each parent.
Okay. If both genes for a characteristic are the same, the animal is homozygous for that characteristic. Let's write down the word homozygous and write that definition with it. So genes are split into two letters when we are looking at things to define it. It will have two letters that are next to each other and they'll be the same letter. So if we have a capital H and a capital H, that would be homozygous because it's the same. Even if we have a lowercase h and a lowercase h, that would also be homozygous. And the next one we're also going to write down, but take your time. If the two genes differ from a given characteristic, the animals are heterozygous. So again, we're talking about these two letters, right, that make up a gene. So if I have a capital H and a lowercase h, that would be heterozygous because those two are different. Keeping on. Okay, which trait is heterozygous? Is a heterozygous pairing? The law of dominance offered by Mendel states that one gene of a pair may exert its influence over the other gene. Which one's going to exert its influence? Lowercase d or capital D? Just scream it out.
Capital.
Oh, I couldn't quite hear you. Say it again. Say it loud and proud. Scream. Let all the other classes know. Is it lowercase d?
Capital D.
Capital D. Thanks, Jonathan.
No
Okay.
problem.
It's capital D. So why would capital D be the dominant trait?
It's bigger.
Because it's bigger, yeah. We always capitalize letters at the beginning of sentences, right? You capitalize your name because it's important. So the dominant trait will always be capitalized, and the recessive trait will always be lowercase. Capiche? Okay, dominance. We already talked about this, so I would hold your pencil. You'll be good. A dominant gene overrides the other gene and is visible in the organism's physical characteristics, referred to as a dominant trait. Recessive, we already talked about this too. A recessive gene is a gene or trait that is hidden by a dominant gene. It is not seen in the phenotype, which remember is what you can see with your eye. It's not seen in the phenotype, but it remains in the genotype. So let's go back to when we saw the picture of the family up front, okay? What color eyes and what color hair did Kendall have? Brown and brown. Shane had blonde hair and blue eyes. So Kendall, she must not have been completely dominant for brown hair and brown eyes. She couldn't have had two uppercase letters. She must have been recessive in some way because she was able to have a child that had red hair and blue eyes, or greenish blue. Okay, when crossed with another animal containing the same recessive trait, some offspring may show the recessive characteristics. That's what we just talked about. Anyone want to read codominance? I'll pick it up if you don't want to.
Codominance occurs when neither trait in a heterozygous pairing dominates the other, so that both are expressed.
Yeah. So, does everyone know what a roan shorthorn looks like? It's like a mixture of the colors. It is like a complete mixture. It's red and white, and it just looks like it's etched throughout. So, it's neither displaying full red or full white. Okay, an incomplete dominance occurs in a heterogeneous pairing in which the offspring's phenotype is a blend of the parents. So red and white flowers can often become pink flowers. Okay, we can kind of go through this. Okay, so predicting offspring. So this is what we're going to do in our pairs in just a bit for our Punnett squares. So each gene is signified by a letter. We talked about that, right? So each gene is signified by a letter. Each gene is paired with another one gene from each parent. If the letter is capitalized, it is the dominant gene. If the letter is not capitalized, it's the recessive gene. We already talked about that. Nod your head if you know what a Hereford cow is. Okay, we have a few people who aren't nodding. So Herefords are a breed of cattle, and so we are looking at the polled trait in Hereford. So if polled, what does polled mean? Doesn't have horns. So if polled is a dominant trait, it is presented by the letter P, which is a capital P. If a parent is homozygous for the genetic traits of polled, the gene pair would be a capital P and a capital P. Are we clear as mud, or are we seeing straight through our windshield? Okay, raise your hand if you're a little confused. Raise your hand if you're following along. Okay, cool. If it is heterozygous for polled traits, the gene pair would be capital P, lowercase p. Okay, everyone go ahead and draw this Punnett square. This picture up there. Just draw that on your sticky. Just want to make sure. Okay, once we have that, as you guys can see, there's a capital P and a capital P on the top for the homozygous parents, and there's a capital P and a capital P on the side for the other homozygous parents. What we do in Punnett squares is take these and cross them. So go ahead and go down this line, write a capital P, and we're going to drop it into the next box too and write another capital P. And on this parent, we're also going to drop it down for a capital P and another capital P. And then go across and do the same thing. Put another capital P next to each thing. And it should kind of look like this. Actually, it shouldn't kind of look like that. It should look like that. Okay, so now we have it. So with this offspring, is it going to be 100% homozygous chance? Absolutely, because everything is the same. Okay, well, yeah, there we go. Now let's try to fill this out in the same way we did the first one. Draw another Punnett square. I know this is kind of dragging right now, but I'm getting you into groups in a second. Okay, so when we go through, the first two are going to be capital P, capital P. And then it looks like as we transfer the rest of them, we go to a uppercase P and a lowercase p, and then uppercase and a lowercase here, and then 2 lowercase. Because if we follow these lines across, that's what we'll get. Okay, so what is the percent chance that this offspring is going to be polled? Remember, we're saying that polled is dominant. What's the chance? 75, absolutely, because we have a capital P in 3 out of the 4 categories. Okay, awesome. So now that we have all of that down, I want everyone to get in partners, but I want you to get in partners with someone who has a different color sticky note than you have. So I have yellow and pink sticky notes. So get into partners, sit together, introduce yourselves, tell them that they look very nice today, and go ahead and get in your groups.
Dude, you look good.
You look good.
I'm sitting in the box.
Take them to the toe.
You already told me.
Might have an extra.
How's Amanda doing? Take close. Yeah. Exciting. I'm excited.
They feeling better now, man?
Another sticky nephew. We have one next son. Yeah. Makes it even more special.
There you go. Okay, if you haven't introduced yourself to your partner and shaken hands and said, are you having a nice day? Make conversation. There you go. Go ahead and do that. There you go. So you guys can each get one.
Ms. Roland, if we got time, can me and Sam do our presentation?
If we have time. And Miss Adkins is okay with it.
What are you teaching us about?
Twins.
Oh.
I'm really not sure if that's what they're going to be teaching.
That's exactly what we're going to be teaching about.
Here.
Did you? Yeah. Yes, I think this is yours.
I think it would be funnier if you saw it while the whole class was also.
Wait.
Watch Jonathan.
I did. I wasn't allowed to watch one.
Me neither.
Okay, all in unison. Who lives in a pineapple under the sea? You couldn't even do that one?
Who lives under
Friends. Okay, so welcome to Bikini Bottom Genetics. Everyone has a partner, so go ahead and go through this with your partner. If you have any questions, ask me. And I do have an answer key so you can self-grade yourself, but if you have any questions, just let me know.
This class is being so quiet today.
It's okay.
Usually they're like super on top of it. They don't talk. I mean, not in a bad way. You're not disruptive, but you're talkative. You can chill or suck up one. Alright.
This is just too hard.
Oh, come on, man.
You got it,
The same
sister.
sheet last year in human bio, not human bio,
Because I remember it was so,
biology.
so funny to hear. the camera
It's fine,
say,
Bolden. This is just a review, but you're the expert.
Nothing.
Isn't as curly as mine. Hers is like 3 year waves.
Oh,
I think Reed's hair is going to be like Reed.
yeah. Yeah.
She is not. She's not.
saw one
Just
that
recently
sang.
got a dog. So it's been quite the experience. She named the dog. Imagine having a kid. She's very helpful with my girl.
Are you the oldest one?
I'm the oldest.
You guys can talk to each other. You're allowed. You don't have to work in silence. It is partner work, so. Those two fight like brother and sister.
What?
Yeah, get her.
Jonathan.
Yes, ma'am.
I have your pals shirt. On Wednesdays we do pals.
Okay.
And so you will have a pal also. You
Okay.
and Evan. I'm going to find it.
It's okay. Yeah.
But I have that, so if you want me to hang on to it until after Christmas, or you want to take it today? Okay.
So you guys do the house thing like that? Or that?
Kind of. It's the Mr. Jones leadership class.
Oh.
It's time this year, and my second period is time, so we're doing it together. So it's a
Okay.
little bit different this year.
Oh.
But on Wednesdays we go over, like, we have our pals now, and at Christmas we switch.
And every
we'll
person
all-
has
Yeah, so you'll have a pal too. The first graders, we go get them from that classroom, and we do different activities.
That's it.
Usually Jones' class plans the activities because it's technically his class. But every now and then, we throw in an idea.
Right.
We'll bring them over and do some stuff in the class with them.
Okay. Where is the elementary school?
It is.
Okay.
We just get on that.
Okay.
It's really fast.
Yeah.
It's fun. I did it when I was in high school with Mr. Jones and loved it. And it's really nice. It's kind of a nice break
Yeah.
because their perspectives are different.
Yeah.
So we can get them.
I wasn't about to that.
Yeah, and their teachers
She's
just
very
with that. Or is that their like after school?
No, their teachers are, we just pull them out of class and take them about voluntary to do different activities.
Planning to donate
It's an enrichment program.
Okay.
Oh, for what?
We're identified for some
Yeah,
reason
that
through
kid
the guidance
with
office. The guidance office gives us a list and they have to
Right. Okay.
It could be for socializing, it could be for behaviors, and
Right.
extra assistance on grades or whatever. So,
That's fine.
it's really well.
Whenever you all finish, which I know that we're near in there, but if you're not, that's cool too. I have answer keys so that you can go through and check them with your partner.
Question.
What's up?
So on this one, where you said that there were 70% current not right holders, so
And
it's
then the
70%.
girl was like, yeah,
So on this one, would it be 4 out of 4 that would possibly have the chance of being one? Okay, so It's still too much because we're already on
There's a lowercase at the beginning.
And when I was don't worry about everything.
And John, no, you're good. You're on the right track.
Good.
And then you just 8 years, and all that, and you do the same thing, and you're going like this. You just cross them. Oh, are you good? I wouldn't be.
Oh, okay. It's a pure. Oh,
No, I can cut this.
Got green in the jean.
And then when you read it, that was gonna be. These here are zero, and these here are 2 from the side. Because I need spelling.
we follow. It's just the capital letters that are going to show us what we get. Just the capital letters at the beginning. This is a good book.
Oh, she gave it to me. You guys have a book.
Yes, we need to do that all the time, whatever you read. I'm reading both books. It's very popular. Okay. So you probably have to read a lot.
That's cool. No, I definitely read it before, but that's been a few years ago.
I'm gonna let you have this too. We haven't even looked at it yet. But part of the signature of business is this.
Okay.
And I think it's some kind of game. I feel like that's poultry. I don't know if that's right for. But this might be something, you know, that you can use for judicial purpose. Like
I feel like
so check it out and see if that's something. Yeah, I don't know what's in here either. I think it was actually in Porter's room and I was like, what is this? Yeah, look at that. I want that box. Sell it.
No, you're good. I'll get to use it.
I have brandy 3 times a day. So.
Yeah.
First,
We
second,
just-
and then teacher's aide at secondary.
I used to be like that. I understand. I think I had my senior year. I think I had my teacher 4 times out of the 7th period day.
That's funny. Which was your mother, right?
No, actually, no, it was a different ag teacher. My mom didn't teach at the same school that I went to.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought that she did. Okay.
No, totally different school.
Interesting.
But my ag teacher actually, my mom's student taught her when my
That's the
mom was
worst.
teaching. She's in high school, and they taught together at one high school at St. Carroll, where my mom used to work. Then my ag teacher moved to the high school where I went to, which is where my mom also went. So
Yeah. Wow.
yeah, I know. It's a long trait.
You want to answer, Kim?
Check over it.
I was wrong. I'm in season 8. I told you I was still in season 7.
What?
You'd ask
The
me.
office, yeah.
Oh.
Our regular office talks. They've all seen it, but I haven't. It takes me forever because I
Well,
don't
now
have
I
TV
know
time.
that I should put some of those like memes in a PowerPoint or something.
I should.
Oh wait, still.
Last night I watched the first episode of The British Office, and then I watched the first episode
It's not the same.
Was it
of the
similar?
American Office. And the first episode is pretty similar.
Check over.
Jonathan, you went over this video.
You said he was going to share. No, I already had it similar.
I said that yesterday, but I hadn't watched them both forever. And now I've watched them both side by side.
There you go.
This is cute.
Yeah. Miss Berger used to give us those little things all the time. We were in ninth grade.
We good?
Morgan has class. How's
This
that
place
going?
is no, that's my list for Christmas break. I am not touching it now. I don't care what it looks like, but I have got to put stuff away. Like there's stuff everywhere.
You want to do like a little storage building out there?
We really have talked about building one several different times, and nothing has come to fruition on it.
Gotcha.
But we just have such, and the ag office is such a disaster.
Yeah, I tried to clean one of the
And it's so
tables
inconvenient for me.
because the other two don't really care.
Mr. Jones is hired to do trash in almost everything. Because a lot of it is a bunch of stuff. This summer, this summer, I would like, because I had to do extended days, I would come in, and before I would do anything, I would do one cabinet. Here's some towels.
And he didn't even
There
know.
were like land surveys from the 80s in there.
I'm guessing he's a hoarder.
I do.
Oh, he is big time. When we moved from that old high school to here, it was my very first year teaching, so you know, I didn't like, my opinion really didn't matter, and I didn't want to step on any toes. I was like, oh yeah, we might need that. So we hooked all of that stuff up and brought
No,
it
I
over
would not. I
here.
would have dumpstered.
Then when Mr. S retired, he had like hardly anything digital. It was all, what is it, the clear stuff that you put on the projector, overheads.
Oh, yeah.
He had tons of overhead,
Really?
like, he's like, do you want all this? I was
No.
like, absolutely not. I don't even know how to work a projector, you know, one of those evil, I don't want that stuff. Mr. Jones is like, no, we need to keep all this animal science stuff. That's good stuff. It's nothing you can't find on Google.
Yeah.
No, we do not know that. So
I just did it back.
I would go to
so this
Zest.
summer I'll do it again. Which mine's a disaster. I mean, it's a complete disaster.
It's not as bad as his
No,
though.
it's not.
He keeps grapefruits in his desk, and I'm like, and he doesn't even eat them. He just keeps
I'm a bad guy. So I know that and I'm bad at it, but I really need to purchase like some big tote. And then where am I gonna put them? This full of stuff.
I wonder if you could
Stuff sitting on
get like,
Coupons, like for when you sign up.
Mom like got these shelves for our laundry room, like they're big shelves, like just to like line up against like empty space in the wall.
What was that?
And like get
I mean, I can get rid of that stuff and put, but it would have to be a small tote because that's,
yeah.
it would have to go on the cooler or on that one.
I put the manual on top.
And you already have 3 cabinets in
I just have too much
My
stuff.
breath is screaming in your ears.
It's crazy how much stuff I
Okay,
have
once you
laying.
guys are done, take your sticky note for on the back of the
Still
handle
have
for
all this.
everyone to it. Try draw a point square for yourself. For your eye color and for your hair color based on what your parents have.
Mail go on top.
Somebody has blue.
Maybe you can
Is mail supposed to go on top as well? Mail's supposed to go on top of the side.
mayo?
Mail.
Oh,
Normally it's for
mayo.
I think that's right.
I think mom's blue, mine are blue, my dad's blue, my brother's blue.
I'm doing black. Hair.
Black eyes.
Black or
I can't believe you went to 2 of these.
They're pretty cheap. I think they're only $2.99.
which one? Eyes.
And now I use this free one from National Pension, and it's holding up just fine. It's ugly, but where she thinks she's going? Oh, she's just moving. Thought you were packing up and leaving. Thought you had enough. Bad kid.
Why
I
can't
have
be
Brittany's sister.
fine?
I always like coming to
I think your dad's blue.
finals.
You like them?
Yes.
Why? You want to see Jake's prom? You don't have to do it. Yeah, I would like that. Well, first period, I've already done it. Second period, I don't have one.
You'll be grading first.
Yeah. Third period is a fine, or an essay. Fourth period is a toothpick house. Fifth period is a study field. We have to build a toothpick house. That's our final. Fifth period is our circulatory system. Sixth period is hard. And seventh period is
Probably not.
You better check yourself when you break
I'm
your
saying usually changes.
Because we're gonna be doing
why don't we just take it the day before
Yours says
I have to
together?
get permission to do that.
She remembers.
Well, the day before would be Friday.
Oh,
We gotta finish our arrangements, especially if we're gonna make one for you.
yeah. Never mind. Well, Jones never gave us a written final for pals.
So does he have brown hair? Does he have blonde hair?
He has more experience than our principal student. Like,
But he has brown now, but it was blonde.
I think this is his 24th year.
Really?
Maybe 25th, something like that.
He's so stern. Like, ew. He's not fun at all.
This boss has, she's right around there.
It's
I like he started
gotten around since you've gotten older, so you have problems.
He's older than me, so
Yeah, he's been in the middle school for a
a
while.
long time. I'd say like, what do I got, 11? I bet he's like around 15-ish. I think he's close to my husband.
Oh, there is one person in my family that has red hair. She's like,
Miss Nicole called up Miss Horn's room and she asked me to answer it, so I answered it and I was like, hello, and he was like, it's Robbie Howell there, and I was like, yes sir. He was like, well, can I speak to her? I was like, yes ma'am, and I was like, crap, no, sir. And he was like, wait, what? And I was like, yeah, you can talk to her, I'm sorry. And he was like, just put her on the phone.
It's hard to hear him because when he calls, he always uses his speakerphone.
Really?
Guaranteed the same thing, yes. So it's a weird echo in a chamber of an office nowadays.
my dad, his mom is blonde, his dad's brunette. That's it.
His eyebrows scare me.
Whose eyebrows?
Mr. Flores.
So does that mean that he's bald?
They're so bushy, they look like
Yeah.
caterpillars.
Like, I think that's what makes him scary. He has no hair, and then he has these ginormous eyebrows.
My
I don't
brother-
have
And they're
eyebrows.
solid black.
Yeah, and he just like stares down at you, and I'm like,
I think it's scary when the sun reflects perfectly off his head and it blinds you.
That's
So
like,
well
He's
waxed.
blonde, and then once he
I
started
think he buffs it every morning.
Oh yeah, he must. I think shiny.
You watch it, you got that full head of hair, it might be yours someday.
his wife is really sweet. He has the cutest little like kids. Like they came to the, I forgot who it was, but I saw his kid and I was like, oh, that's mom. I'm pretty sure it's a boy.
My
Do
hair
you want them
goes
to turn
though.
these in or you?
That'd be fine, I can give him some facial hair.
anything is
Hold on.
possible, just believe.
Okay. I didn't know what time this class lasted.
There's 54. Jonathan Hatton really wants to do this.
That's fine.
Unless you have, do you have something else?
Okay, if everyone wants to go ahead and stick your sticky note on top of your paper that you completed. And just pass them up.
I didn't want to give my presentation that bad, Ms. Rose.
Oh, I thought you really
I'm
wanted
gonna
to
sit
your
back there and take it
presentation.
and enjoy this.
You good?
It's me and Sam's.
Well, I like kind of scrolled through it when I got to one part and I was like, all right, never mind.
These are the answers.
I'm clicking this thing.
No, I'm on.
No, you're not.
Let me click it.
No.
Please, just let me click.
No,
Look,
you
Brandy.
don't No.
I'm doing this. Brandy, get up.
No.
It's rolling. Brandy's being
You
mean.
have to get up there and present.
Oh, sorry.
On the desk.
It is funny too.
Yeah, I get the clicker.
So technically, you're Huh.
Oh, it's right here. Sorry. Under my papers.